In this video, we're gonna go through the concept and just help you conceptualize a theme or a movement that's very common in our mobility full range program. If you want info on that, you can check the link in our bio. Otherwise, following this video will just help you conceptualize what we're trying to achieve. So Pails and Rails is actually an acronym for two different things. So one, Pails, stands for Progressive Angular Isometric Loading, and the other one stands for Regressive Angular Isometric Loading. Fancy words, you don't really have to understand those words or what they mean, but what I want you to do is think about what is the movement trying to achieve. So that this Pails and Rails is trying to expand your, what lots of people refer to as flexibility, I like to refer to as mobility. Not only are we stretching into a movement, but we're also adding some isometric muscle contractions to build some strength and stability in these new ranges. So it's more than just stretching, but I want you to conceptualize what this is. I'm gonna explain this using what's called hip flexion, meaning we have my hip joint here, and flexion means I'm going to basically bring in the knee up. So the higher I can bring my knee up, this joint from my femur and my hip is closing, it's getting smaller. So that's hip flexion. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to find what's called my end range of motion. Probably even stand this box up a little bit more. I'm gonna find that end range of motion of what my hip flexion is gonna be. So you notice I have a pretty big, like my thigh and my chest are pretty much touching, and this is my end range of passive motion. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna just, in my Pails and Rails, I'm gonna hang out here in a stretch for my hip flexion. So I'm really just trying to relax here. Now, Pails and Rails is always broken down into three sections. Section number one is the stretch portion. I only need to do this once, and then the Pails and Rails section I can do 1, 2, 3, probably wouldn't do more than 3 or 4 times through. But the first section is about, I always like to say 2 minutes of a stretch. From there, we go into Pails, which is 30 seconds long, and then Rails, which is 20 seconds long, okay? So what I'm doing is I'm hanging out in maximum hip flexion for 2 minutes. So this is my stretch portion. So I'm really just trying to stretch, and just, you might find that when you first get into a stretch, there's a bit of resistance, and you wanna just kind of use the 2 minutes to just relax in that stretch. What I really want you to do is think about the joint with Pails and Rails. Think about the joint that we're trying to focus on. So hip flexion, obviously, we're working on the hip. We're deep in the hip here. So for this, I'm just relaxing into the stretch, trying to feel it more and more. I might feel it in various different places, but I'm really just trying to sink into the stretch further. When I get to the end of my 2 minute stretch or 2 minute window, I'm now gonna go into what's called Pails, or Progressive Angular Isometric Loading. So what I wanna do is I'm trying to push out of the stretch. So I'm trying to push my foot down, okay? But I don't want to do it with any other muscle other than the joint I'm focusing on, or the joint I'm working on. So when I go to push down, I'm using the muscles deep inside my hip, so these muscles right here, to extend my leg, to straighten out my leg. Problem is the box is in the way. It's good, unless I somehow put my foot through the box, it's not gonna happen. And that's where what an isometric muscle contraction is I'm actioning the movement. The muscles are working to complete a movement, but there's something in the way preventing me from actually moving. So the muscles are working hard, but on the camera or on the video here, nothing's actually visibly happening. All you might see is that my body starts to shake. So for my Pails, again, I'm trying to push my foot through. When I switch to Rails, I'm again using the muscles right here or right here, so you can see this leg, but deep inside the hip, I'm using those hip muscles to now lift my whole leg off the box. The trick is I don't want to compensate at all. And again, it's a regressive angular isometric loading, meaning you probably won't see anything happen. So because I'm at that, what's called end range of motion. So I've been hanging out here for well over 2 minutes, but let's say it's about 2 minutes. Over the course of the next 30 seconds, I'm gonna try and open up the hip here. I'm gonna try and open up at a greater and greater intensity. So I like to set clients up, or set yourself up if you're following along, to brace, use sticks, hold the door frame, whatever you need, but I don't want any part of your body moving while we go to press the foot down, okay? So I'm gonna take a big breath in, okay? I'm gonna tense up, and then I'm gonna try and use the muscles deep inside the hip to open up. 20% effort to start, and then every 5 seconds, I like to gradually ramp it up, 40% effort, and then 5 seconds later, 60% effort, and then 5 seconds later, 80% effort, and then max effort for the next 10 seconds. Trying to push, 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 push. You might see a little bit of shake from my body. And then after 10 seconds, I'm gonna switch to regressive. 3, 2, 1. I'm trying to lift without cheating or without leaning back or anything to get that foot higher. I'm really trying to lift with the muscles deep inside the hip for 20 seconds as hard as I can. So progressive angular or Pails, I'm gradually ramping up that intensity. Regressive, I'm just switching directions and trying to increase the range of motion or the stretch that I'm working at. Okay, so that's just to help you conceptualize, especially if you're following the full range program inside of APP or Athlete Performance Pursuit. You're gonna see this in the full range program. And this is just to give you an idea. Again, I coach each movement within that with the video, but this gives you an idea of what Pails and Rails are. It's used to not only help you increase your range of motion, but additionally to help you build strength and stability in those end ranges. So it's more than just stretching. It's like strength and conditioning combined with a stretch. That's in our full range program. If you want more info, shoot a message or drop an email, Brandon@heroicathletics.com. Otherwise, we'll see you later.